Good evening. Portsmouth Zoning Board of Review is now in session. Just prior to this, to access the meeting by phone, please dial in 888-788-0099. Once prompted for the meeting ID, please dial 810-7212-4202 pound. Once prompted for a participant ID, if you're an invited participant, dial your participant ID followed by the number. To access the meeting through the web, using a computer, it's https://livestream.portsmouthri.com/zoning. Mr. Scholl is going to put that up on the screen right now for anyone in attendance. The first thing I will do is I will have a roll call. For John Borden. Present. For Ben Furell. Mr. Furell.
Present, sorry.
That's okay. Ms. Pavlakis.
Present.
Thank you. I believe, is Ms. Horowitz on yet? Is not. Mr. Wadika, are you on yet? Okay, and we know that Mr. Reposer is out tonight. We are anticipating Ms. Horowitz to be on tonight. She will be a tad late. Mr. Wadika should be on, so we're just going to give it a couple of minutes because right now we do not have a quorum, but we do anticipate having one. So we'll just stand by for a minute or two until either Ms. Horowitz or Mr. Wadika come on. we'll continue the roll call. Mr. Ladika, are you present?
Yes, I am.
Thank you, Mr. Ladika. All right. The only person that is not in attendance that we were expecting is Ms. Horowitz, and I believe she will be on in a little bit. So, first item we will continue is petition number 5 of Chris Fagan, applicant, Fred Souza, and Sherry Field, who are seeking a dimensional variance for front and rear yard setbacks on, let's see, what Texas. That's on Prudence Island, 0 Chase Avenue, Prudence Island. They're requesting to be continued to our regularly scheduled meeting of December 17th. Could I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that we continue the petition to our December agenda.
Thank you. Mr. Borden has made a motion to continue the petition of Chris Fagan and Fred Souza and Sherry Field to our December 17th. Do I have a second?
Mr. Chairman, Ben Farrell seconds the motion.
Thank you. Mr. Fiorell has seconded that motion. All in favor by roll call, Mr. Borden?
Yes, I approve.
Mr. Fiorell?
Yes, I approve.
Ms. Pavlakis?
Yes, I approve.
Mr. Ladika?
Yes, I approve.
And the chairman votes to approve as well. All right, that is passed. Continuing on, we do have one petition from our old business, the petition of Michael and Karen Mulligan, who are seeking a dimensional variance for rear yard shed placement. Mr. Borden has a conflict with that because he isn't a butter. So right now, we're going to move that to be heard third tonight. That being said, we are anticipating Ms. Horowitz to be in attendance by then. So the first petition that was listed under old business, Michael and Karen Mulligan, we will hear as number 3. So moving ahead, that brings us to the petition of Robert Kilbasa, 50 Longshore Road, tax assessors map 34, lot 63. He's seeking a dimensional variance to construct a swimming pool in the southwest corner of this property within the required setback. Because of how far the house is set back off of Mark Lane, there's a little room behind the house in the southwest corner. Due to the location of the house, petitioner is faced with a hardship, and the proposed location of the pool is the least relief necessary to alleviate the hardship. And to deny applicant's petition would amount to more than mere inconvenience. That's his grounds for the petition. So is Mr. Kabasa on?
Court Chappelle's here for Mr. Kabasa, and Mr. Kabasa is with me.
Oh, thank you. Do you want me to swear Mr. Kabasa in?
Sure.
Mr. Kabasa, are you there?
Here I am.
Wow. Would you like to raise your right hand? Swear to tell the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, could you just give your full name and address for our secretary, Barbara, please?
Robert Kilbasa, 50 Longshore Road, Portsmouth, Rhode Island.
Thank you, Mr. Kabasa. Go ahead, Mr. Chappelle.
Thank you. As one preliminary matter, I didn't have the technology to unmute before the last vote. Mr. Souza and Mr. Fagan asked for my help, and one of the reasons it was continued is because I'm helping to make it more like the least relief necessary. But part of the plan we are probably going to the planning board in December. So although you continue to December meeting, I may be there in December for January for planning purposes. And I'll let Mike know. I don't think I'll get on the agenda fast enough to move the lot line to be asking for less relief.
Okay, all right. Thanks, Mr. Chappelle.
All right, on this petition, as you know, I'm here on behalf of Rob Kabasa, tax assessors map 3463. And I'd like to begin by explaining just the picture that you have in front of you. First, north is down in that picture as we speak right now. And that line and the north side is Mark Lane. So because that is Mark Lane, there is a 30-foot front yard setback. On the east side is Longshore Road. Longshore Road is Mr. Kilbasa's address and is also a front yard. So it's one of those situations where we have 2 front yards. If you look at the property that Mr. Kielbasa did not build but purchased, you'll see that the house is set back way into what I'll refer to as the southwest corner. And there's a patio and things that are already on the line. What we did was to draw the setbacks for you of the double 30 feet. And then because the front door is on Longshore and the address is Longshore, and we only have 1 rear yard, I designated the west as a rear yard. The pool that is being proposed is tucked in as close to the patio as we can get it. And there is 18 feet from the property line where 30 feet is required. And that's why we're here tonight asking for a 12-foot rear yard setback. There are no problems with the front yard setback either to the north or the front back setback to the west. There's no problem with the side yard setback to the east because the pool maintains the 15-foot setback. It's just because the pool cannot go in the front yards by statute, by ordinance. It's the only place we can put it. And because of the current location of the house and the current location of the patio, and where we have stuffed it as close to the patio as we can, it is the least relief necessary to put in that pool. Note that it's a very large lot, so that I believe there's only 10% lot coverage. You're nowhere near the 20. So there are no variances requested at all, except the rear yard setback 30 in the ordinance, and it's going to be 18 feet. So it would require that 12-foot variance. What's not drawn is that even though the front door is Longshore and the walk goes to Longshore, that building you see the furthest into the north west corner is the garage, and that front yard is a large driveway and the septic system. So even if we asked for a variance to put it in the front yard, we could not put it there. So it's really as simple as we think a pool is reasonable. We're asking what we believe to be the least relief necessary, and we're trying to get a pool in the backyard. The most affected neighbor would be that neighbor that is located to the west. And I sent to Mike and asked him to put up as an exhibit a letter from Mark and Paula, who own the property immediately to the west. And they have reviewed the petition, are in full support, and are in favor of you granting this petition. If you've had the opportunity to go down there, there is a heavy vegetated line on the west side. So I think it's fairly easy for Mark and Paul DeAndrea to say they won't see this because of the very mature growth holly trees. And if you have had the opportunity to go down there, you'd also notice that the neighbors to the south have a heavy, thick, dense row of pine trees, although it is on their side of the wall. So it's very protected by vegetation on the sides that are affected. And unless there's any questions of Mr. Kielbasa directly, I think that's the sum and substance of the petition.
Thank you.
And there are no requests for any variances on the height of fences.
Thank you, Mr. Chappelle. Yeah, I'm looking at a satellite view of it myself right now. One must question why they wanted the house that far back of the property.
I think that may be a springed area or wet area. So there, if you look at the Google on a satellite from the street view, you'll see that the whole thing is kind of elevated, almost like they put in a system and the lot's built up higher. The topography is interesting. It goes uphill from Longshore, and the front yard is flat, but it's a large system out there.
Right. Okay. I personally don't have any questions from Mr. Kielbasa. Mr. Board, do you?
No questions.
Okay, Mr. Furell, do you have any questions?
An observation to make that the going south from the property, as Mr. Chappelle pointed out, there's a tree line separating the two properties. And then a little further south, there's a driveway separating that tree line from the abutter to the south. So it's even a little further away and perhaps better protected than you might think. But that's my only comment, sir.
Okay.
And I don't have a letter, but I am comfortable representing that they could discuss with the petitioner tonight and asked a question about whether the fence was going to be on our side of the wall. We entered the affirmative, and they did say they had no objection.
Okay. Ms. Pavlakis, do you have any questions for the applicant?
No, I do not.
Okay, Mr. Wadika, do you have any?
No questions?
All right, and I said I didn't either. I do have to ask if there's any abutters or interested parties. Is there anyone raising their hand, Mike, or calling in?
Covered an issue with the call-in, I think.
Okay.
Does anyone, again, raise your hand if you have any public, would you like to give public comment?
Okay, I will, for the record, read the letter from Mark and Paul DeAndrea, just in case there is someone that's not online, they're on via phone. Stated November 12th, 2020. Mr. Chairman and members of the zoning board, our names are Mark and Paula DeAndrea, and we live at 25 Mark Lane. Our property abuts the Cabasa lot to the east, their west, and is the lot most impacted by the variance relief requested. We are writing to inform the board that we are in full support of Mr. Cabasa's petition. Please feel free to contact me further with any questions or concerns. Sincerely, Mark, and then again, Paula DeAndrea. And that's the only letter in support, the only letter in the file. So, seeing that, I believe we'll move to voting. So, Mr. Borden, you want to take on this one?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would say that a swimming pool is an accessory use under the ordinance that's permitted, and this request is very reasonable. The house is set way back on the lot. The relief being requested is certainly reasonable. The least relief necessary, and to deny would amount to more than a mere inconvenience. I vote to approve.
Thank you. Mr. Furell.
Mr. Chairman, I also vote to approve for the reasons cited by Mr. Borden.
Thank you very much. Ms. Pavlakis.
I also vote to approve for the reasons previously stated by Mr. Farrell and Mr. Borden.
Thank you. Mr. Wadika.
Yes, I vote to approve for the reasons stated by Mr. Borden.
Thank you. The chairman also votes to approve for reasons previously stated by Mr. Borden. So, Mr. Cabasa, you have passed.
As always, everyone, thank you for your time.
Thank you. If we don't talk to you, have a good Thanksgiving.
And you. We'll talk to you next month.
Thank you. For the record, Ms. Horowitz, are you present now? Ms. Horowitz? Can you go with the-
When you dropped off.
Did she drop off? Okay, she was on. All right, well, we'll continue the next petition. I did see Ms. Horowitz on, then it seems she has dropped off, but we'll go on. So the next item on the agenda is petition by Robert Michelle Harkin, seeking a dimensional variance for rear yard setback to construct a 14 by 28 swimming pool located at 92 Harvest Drive, which is tax assessor's map, let's see. Tax assessor's map 66, lot 38. Are the Harkins on?
Okay, hold on. one sec. With Matthew Vienna is the engineer for the apartments. And he's on.
He's on, but they're not. is someone on to represent the Harkins?
Matthew Vienna is from Millstone. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can, Matthew.
Okay.
But the Harkins are not on.
No, Robert was on his way back from Boston. He's gotten held up a little bit. I expect him any minute.
Okay. And you are his engineer, so.
Correct.
You want to wait for him? We can push it ahead a couple or.
I'm happy to move forward and explain the situation to the board, if that's okay.
Okay, if you could just hang on for a minute. Ms. Horowitz, you on now? Sue, you have to unmute. Ms. Horowitz, are you on? Okay, Mr. Vienna, why don't you go ahead and proceed?
Okay, thank you. I'll wait for the plan to come up.
Okay.
This application is very similar to the one you just heard from Mr. Kobasa and Mr. Chappelle. It's an existing home. The Harkins bought it about 3 years ago. They've renovated the inside and the outside. It's their family home. It's a 3-bedroom, single-family property on Harvest Drive. This house, similar to the last applicant, was set back toward the rear setback quite a bit, with the septic system located in the front of the property, minimizing the area behind the home where the pool is proposed, requiring the same type of variance. It's simply a rear setback of 15 feet to the pool where 30 feet is required. And they did not build the property. It's not through any fault of their own. It's their irregular location of the home set so far back to the rear of the property. There's a thick vegetative buffer, as you can see on the plan. It's about a 10-foot wide evergreen hedge all across the area where the pool is proposed. There's fencing around the rear of the property. I believe they need to add a little more to close it, but that's certainly something they will do before applying for their building permit. I can walk through the requirements for the variance process. It's not a result of any prior action of the applicant, as they bought the property this way. It is a unique character of the property where the home is set back so far. It's a smaller pool. It's 14 by 28, I believe. So they've minimized their need and desire for the pool, understanding that they were asking for a variance. So it's the least relief they feel that is necessary to enjoy their property. And it does meet the definition of a variance provided. So
What
this
is,
is
go ahead.
application as they've proposed it to you.
Would it be safe to say that this is an irregularly shaped lot?
It has some irregular shape to it, sure.
That's a lot of irregular shapes. And I'm looking at it, appears that the abutter to the east, if that's what I believe it looks like a covered swimming pool. So I'm assuming this was taken probably fall or winter, this satellite shot. Is, assuming you've been to the site, is that the neighbor also already has a pool there?
There is a pool to the east, correct?
And although I can't measure off a Google Earth map, I'm going to almost guesstimate that that's pretty close to the property line as well. So I don't have any questions. Board, do you have any questions?
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Furell, do you have any questions?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I do have a question for the engineer. I'm sorry, sir, I didn't catch your name.
Matthew Vienna.
Mr. Vienna? Sir, is there something to the, let me see, to the east of the home that would prevent the pool from being placed there entirely within the setbacks?
Only the fact that that side of the home are bedrooms. The house, the way it is laid out, the back deck, the back patio, the kitchen, the sliding doors, the living room, all exit to the rear where the pool is proposed. It would be just a very less desirable location within the property and the function of the home to place it over there.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Sure.
Okay, how about Ms. Pavlakis? Do you have anything?
No, I do not.
Okay, Mr. Ladika?
No questions?
Chairman doesn't have any questions either. There are no letters in the file from any of butters or any public comment. Is there anyone, Michael?
Well, we're having an issue with the call-ins. We have some people who are gonna try to give comment. However, the call-in, they're watching, but they don't have a microphone on a computer, so they're trying to call in. I'm trying to figure out what the setting is, and I tried to call in just now, and it's not working.
Okay, and they wanted to call in on this particular petition?
Yeah, at least one of them, correct.
Okay. Is it possible for them to call in on a speakerphone where we
Yeah,
put it to a microphone?
Yeah.
Please bear with us while Mr. Ashola works on the audio part.
Sure.
Hello? Yeah. So you want to give comment on this item right now?
And I'm sorry, I haven't been able to pay attention to you're talking about time.
Yeah.
On the item.
Which one, the item?
Item number 7 on the agenda, 12, and 4, the variance for the frontage, for the law, frontage.
Okay, yeah, that's next. That'll be the next one.
Okay, I hear that I'm on speaker.
Yeah. That's my personal number, so just don't make it public. No, you can give her that number and she can call in but we need the call when the item's up for the public comments up for that item. Okay. Okay, is that the one it's KFRI coaches? There's a login, it's a user login ID, it's KFRI coaches. Is that your friend? Neighbor? Okay. Okay, well, just give her that number and tell her to call at that time. It has to be, you're watching the meeting on Zoom, correct? Yeah, so when we ask for public comment, that would be the time you call in. Yeah, you won't. Bye-bye.
Okay, so do we have anyone on this one, Michael?
Let's see. Anyway, if you have any, want to make public comment, please raise your hand now.
This is on the petition of Robert and Cheryl Harkin of 92 Harvest Drive only.
All right, I don't see, no hands, no.
Okay, seeing no one, we'll move on. Robert and Cheryl Harkin are before the board, tax assessors map 66 lot 38, seeking a 15-foot rear yard dimensional variance for the purpose of installing an in-ground swimming pool. Mr. Board.
Mr. Chairman, this is again a reasonable request. A swimming pool is allowed under the ordinance as an accessory use. It's a reasonable request. Petitioner has met all the standards, and to deny would amount to more than a mere inconvenience. I vote to approve.
Thank you very much, Mr. Boyd. Mr. Furell.
Mr. Chairman, I also vote to approve for the reasons cited by Mr. Borden.
Thank you. Ms. Pavlakis.
I vote to approve as well for the reasons previously stated.
Okay, Mr. Ladika.
I vote to approve for the reasons previously stated.
Thank you. The chairman votes to approve for reasons previously stated by Mr. Borden as well, so that has been approved.
Thank you.
Okay, now is Ms. Horowitz on?
I'm here. I'm here.
Thank you,
Yay.
Sue.
Good to
Okay,
see you, Sue. How are
Sorry,
you?
I couldn't.
that's okay.
Welcome.
Okay,
Thank you.
so we'll now be hearing the petition of Michael and Karen Mulligan of 58 Mill Lane. Mr. Borden has a conflict on this, so it will be Mr. Furell, Ms. Pavlakis, Ms. Horowitz, Mr. Ladika, and myself will be hearing this petition. So are the Mulligans on?
You have someone with their hand up now. Does Paul? Does Paul? Put your hand.
Is Michael or Karen Mulligan on?
Yes, we are.
Oh, you are. Very good. Okay. If you would you like to walk us through why you're here?
We had purchased a 8x8 shed that we placed on our property at 58 Mill Lane in a spot that we thought was fine because when our house was originally built, we were Vieira Road. Sometime later, the town decided they weren't going to approve Vieira Road for use. So we were asked to take Mill Lane by the fire department. Well, we had no choice. So we had to switch to Mill Lane. So basically our frontage is Vieira Road. Our side yard happens to be Mill Lane.
Right, and
So we placed it on,
I'm looking at an aerial shot of this, and your door faces Vieira Road. Correct?
correct.
Your driveway is off of
That's
Vieira
correct.
Road. But,
Correct.
Yes.
so, other than your garage, which points at Mill Lane, but you can't.
Correct.
access it from Mill Lane.
No, we can't.
Got it. So basically, you want or have put your shed in what you consider the rear of your property, which is that portion of your house behind your front door. Correct?
No, it's placed basically across from the garage,
But
the opening of the garage.
Side yard.
in the side yard, which is Mill Lane,
Yes.
Yes,
Correct.
yes.
which the town says is your address. Got it.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so trying to find out exactly what you require for a variance.
Someone made a complaint, filed a complaint.
No, but I'm trying to find out exactly, your petition doesn't say what the variance request would be.
Mr. Chairman.
Can it be placed where it is? Because we thought it was correct where we had put it until we got a letter from the town saying that there was a complaint on where it was sitting.
Right,
Maybe a variance just to allow it.
In the
to allow it
front
in the
yard.
front yard, okay. Got it.
Sorry, I'll be quiet.
Right. So basically, because of that, you're actually requesting that your shed be allowed to be placed in the front yard, and it meets all the other setback requirements of a shed, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have anything else you'd like to add to that?
Well, like I said, when we put that shed up, we had just done a lot of work on our house, new siding, everything else. And we also made the shed to resemble the house. Everything was done to upgrade the property. I actually removed a couple of trees and I put new vegetation and new trees that once they fully mature, you'll never even know the shed is there.
Could I ask you a question?
Sure.
If I go down, what is it, Vieira Road,
Mhm.
there's two more houses. There's one across the street from you,
Correct.
Right,
and there's one at the very end.
right.
Yes,
What are their addresses?
My neighbor straight across from me is also Mill Lane. His house was built the same time mine was by the same builder. We
Right.
were both Vieira Road until we were asked to change.
How about the one at the very end?
The house, the one at the very end is why Vieira Road now exists again. Because it was basically an easement into the property back there, which was a horse farm and stuff like that. And the gentleman that lives there is the son-in-law of the person who owns the property directly across from them. So that's why they put Vieira Road in, and now it's in there as a private road.
And their address is Vieira Road.
yes.
There's three houses, literally, their doors face Vieira Road, and one out of three has Vieira Road. as-
Correct. One house, there's only one house on Vieira, designated for Vieira Road.
Got it, okay.
Great question.
All right, let me roll down and see if any members have any questions. Mr. Furell, do you have any questions on this?
Not a question, but an observation that makes this even more unusual.
Go ahead.
If you look at the property from Mill Lane, there's also a stone wall across the full length of the property. So,
All right.
so it
Thank you for pointing that out, Mr. Furell. How about Ms. Pavlakis? Do you have anything to add?
Sorry for being graphic.
Ms. Pavlakis?
No, I do not have anything to add or a question. No.
Okay, how about Ms. Horowitz? Anything?
No questions.
Mr. Wadika?
No questions?
Okay, the chairman has asked all the questions he had. There are no letters in the file, but I will ask for any abutters or interested parties that do want to speak on this. Do we have anyone, Mike?
So if you want,
No,
How do you know they're on?
um,
It's not on.
we'll give it enough. I don't believe there were
Okay.
any on, that I talked to before calling.
So we'll vote now. Michael and Karen Mulligan of 58 Mill Lane, Portsmouth, Rhode Island. Before this board, tax assessors map 51 lot 238, requesting to place their shed in what is the town has considered their front yard. The shed meets all other setback requirements of a shed, other than the fact that it's being placed in their front yard, although for the record, their address was changed by the town. The house was not moved. Door faces Vieira Lane, which was their original address. So, Mr. Furell, do you want to take a shot at this?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, I vote to approve the variance allowing the shed to be placed in the applicant's front yard, given the unique nature of the property and the unique designation by the town of their front yard, which is in no way the responsibility of the applicants. I believe that it's a reasonable place to put a permitted accessory use, and to deny this would be more than a mere inconvenience. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Furell. Ms. Pavlakis?
I agree, and I agree with Mr. Furriel, and I approve.
Thank you. Ms. Horowitz?
I agree for reasons previously stated.
Okay, Mr. Ladika?
I approve for the reasons previously stated.
Chairman votes to approve for reasons previously stated by Mr. Furell. This certainly was not a hardship created by the applicant. The applicant's hardship was created by the town for no other purpose than to tell them their street was no longer. So again, to deny amounts to more than a mere inconvenience in this. So it has been approved. To be honest with you, Mulligans, you should never, in my opinion, have to have come to this board for this. But for the record, it's been approved, and you don't have to worry about it from here on out.
thank you.
All right. Have a good evening. Have a good Thanksgiving.
You
You
too.
Okay, next item on the agenda. Is by Marianne Dornfield, applicant, and Rick Realty LLC. Now, let me get all my paperwork here. And they are seeking a dimensional variance under Article 3, Section D2. Parcel, according to their grounds for variance, is a non-conforming parcel, does not front on a public street, and currently contains a single-family unit. Variance is being requested to construct a multifamily duplex on the existing non-conforming lot. So, it is Ms. Dornfield and Rick Realty on.
She is, and also John McCoy is the attorney that's going to be representing her.
All right, so does Mr. McCoy want to start? Mr. McCoy, are you there?
I don't think his audio is working.
Okay,
Retro.
that's a problem.
Yeah, it's not.
Is he still there?
No, I think maybe he's logging out, logging back.
Back in again?
Yeah,
Okay,
we do have someone with their hand up.
Okay.
James Traglia.
all right, we can see what they want.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Who's speaking?
This is James Traglia. I'm here on behalf of Principi Engineering.
Okay, so just stand fast then.
Sure.
All right, looks like John McCoy is,
Mr. McCoy, you back on?
I'm back on.
Ah, there you are. We can hear you now.
I switched devices, Mr. Chairman. In the year of the pandemic, you have to be able to improvise. Covered.
Especially nowadays. Okay, you're on, is Mary Ann Dornfield on? I do have to swear her in.
Yes.
All right. Ms. Dornfield, where are you? There she is.
Here I am. Okay, I'm unmuted.
Okay, there you are, Ms. Dornfield. Okay, do you swear to tell the truth?
I do.
Could you give us your full name and address for Barbara, our secretary, please?
Marianne Dornfeld, 11 South Cottage Road, Belmont, Massachusetts.
Okay. So, through your attorney, I guess, you want to go ahead and present what you'd like to do?
Go ahead, John.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Just very briefly, Mr. Chairman, John McCoy, 40 Westminster Street in Providence, for the applicant Mary Ann Dornfeld. Very briefly, you have the application in front of you. We're looking at the survey that was done. This is a pre-existing lot of record that goes back when I ran the title at least to 1959, and I think the house that's on it was built in 1920. It has never had physical connection to Bristol Ferry Road. It has always had, it has an easement of record in the title. So what the applicant is looking to do now is put a duplex on this lot, which is allowed use in this R20 zone. It's a 31,000 square foot lot, so not looking for any other variance, it's just access to Bristol Ferry Road. So that's why we're here tonight. The lot is not changing area as far as I could tell by deeds going back to 1920. It's been the same lot the whole time. So really, it's the least relief necessary, just looking for access to Bristol Ferry Road to construct the duplex house on this lot.
Right, so you're not asking for any dimensional relief, any lot coverage variance. It's strictly to build a house / duplex on a lot that does not front a public way. And it is a lot of record.
That is correct. That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Just trying to get my bearings, if you will.
No problem.
So now it's listed as 557 Bristol Ferry Road. So is the, I'm, I guess, a little confused. There is a house on that lot now, correct?
That's correct. That's a single family house that I believe, and I can be corrected if I'm wrong, but I believe that house has been there since 1920. So that house will be raised and the duplex will be put on this property.
Okay. But isn't that the driveway accessing Bristol Ferry Road?
The existing, yeah, and there's been, like I said, there's been a right-of-way of record in the deeds to this property going back to the 1920s. But in order to construct a new duplex, that's why we needed the dimensional relief from this board to go forward with that.
Okay. So the lot, 557 Bristol Ferry Road, I'm a little confused.
it's a rectangle.
Yeah, it's a small rectangle that goes on the side of that house, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, that house, oh, the one you're looking above, that's a separate lot.
Got it. Now I see it. Yep. Okay.
Now I understand. That was confusing me. That's a separate house.
Right. That house is totally separate. There is a right of way that comes from, that goes down to those lots. Is that
Correct.
one or two lots there?
The other property is, Mary Ann, was that two or two lots in the other one?
Right, there's 52A and 52B and lot 54, which is called 557 Bristol Ferry Road, even though it doesn't front on Bristol Ferry Road.
That's correct. The other properties, Mr. Chairman, were subdivided by approval with the planning board a few years ago. But those aren't before you tonight.
I see.
Yep.
Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Borden.
If I could add some insight into this, I actually used to own the abutting property at Bristol Ferry and actually received approval from the planning and zoning board to subdivide the property. I believe there are 2 duplexes proposed for the abutting lot, and I'm familiar with the lot in question that's before us tonight. There's a cottage there that is in disrepair that is ready to be demolished. This is a very, very narrow lot, but it is 30,000 square feet, and it would be consistent with the duplex lots that are proposed for the abutting property.
Yeah, now that I look at Principal Engineering's drawing, I can see where this comes in. Okay, yeah. All right, I personally don't have any other questions. I mean, it's a simple house, not on a public way. There's a lot of record. Mr. McQuarrie, before I kind of poke around the other board members for any questions or anything else you kind of want to add to this at all?
I don't think so, Mr. Chairman. I think I laid it out. I think you summed it up quite well. It is a lot of record, and this is really the least relief necessary to get access to Bristol Ferry Road so this duplex can be constructed. No other variances are being sought, as you correctly noted.
Right, okay, thank you. Mr. Furell, do you have any questions?
No, sir, no questions.
Okay, Ms. Poplakis, do you have any?
No, I do not.
Okay, Ms. Horowitz, do you have any?
No, I don't.
The chairman doesn't have any either. I will ask, let me see if there's any letters in the file for or against, and I don't see any. However, I do believe there may be a caller.
Yeah, I think we have 2 people on the, that have the hand raised. We'll go.
Okay.
We'll go with Paul. Paul, if you could unmute yourself and give your name and address, please.
Yeah, my name is Paul Ganberger. I'm at 48 Windward Drive, and my property abuts the property in question. I too subscribe to what Mr. Borden said earlier about his ownership of the property, and when he approached the board a number of years ago to subdivide the property, I expressed some concern at that time, and I have the same concern now about placing this dwelling right where it is. There is a variance going to be required here, I believe, because it's cited on just barely makes the 30,000 square foot requirement, but I believe the variance has to be given for the dimensional aspect of where it's cited, because it's only about 16 feet from the rear of the house to the property line. And also in looking at the siting of the septic system, my biggest concern is that in years past, and that old bungalow that was there has been, it has been torn down. I'm not sure that the land associated with that old bungalow has been remediated, because that piece of property never did have, associated with the bungalow, it never did have a proper septic system. It had a cesspool. And during times of heavy downpours, we would get some effluent runoff coming from the house toward our property, which is, on the map, it's designated as property 12-65, by the way. And so I'm concerned that, first of all, the setback from the property line is only 16 feet, 2 inches, if I understand the drawing correctly. And I'm more concerned about the location of the septic system, the leaching field, the tanks, et cetera, and any runoff that may come, because the land slopes from Bristol Ferry Road down toward Linda Avenue, which is the next cross street down, and also comes in our direction. Essentially, it flows easterly and somewhat southerly toward Windward Drive. And therefore, that's my concern. So it appears that there is a requirement for a setback here of 30 feet, at least 30 feet from the back of the building to the property line. But I'm more concerned about the location of the septic system as well.
Okay.
And since the property, and I'm looking at the proposed development associated with the property adjacent to it, where there are two-family homes, or two duplexes rather, excuse me, proposed. Each of those homes, or each of those dwellings, is proposed for two-bedroom units, whereas this unit, which is located literally within proximity to the property line behind my home and others, is only 16 feet. It's proposed for two 3-bedroom units, and I've got a problem with that in terms of the water runoff, effluent runoff, et cetera, during any heavy rainstorms.
Okay.
So
So
that's my question.
let me clarify one thing. The back of the building is not the rear yard, okay? So.
It's what? I'm sorry, I
It's
didn't
not
hear
the
that.
rear Yard. The rear yard, so the front yard, or the front of the property is considered Bristol Ferry Road. So
Yep.
the rear would be to the other side. Just because the back of the building faces the abutting lots does not make that the rear yard. So that side that is 16 foot 2 inches is actually 1 foot 2 inches within the variance. They only within the setback. They only require 15 feet on that side.
So you're saying what I'm looking at is the back of the residence is actually the side of the building?
Is on the side
which requires
yard.
the side yard, which requires a 15-foot setback. I understand that.
And in actuality, because it's sort of landlocked, it has 4 side yards.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, so, unfortunately, we can't really take into consideration what is being done on that other lot, because that could
I
totally change.
understand.
No one's ever come before us requesting anything.
Right.
So I get it, but I understand your other concerns, and I believe, we do have a representative from Principe Engineering on that. I'll speak in a minute to that, to address those concerns, okay?
That's fine.
All right, is there anything else you'd like to add, sir?
No, again, I just wanted to express my concern about it, that I just feel that it's, I understand the dimensions of the lot are just a tad over 31,000 square feet. And it's a 30,000 square foot requirement, so it's within that confine. My concern is just the aspect of how the building is, the new building is going to be sited, and with the occupancy of 2 3-bedroom units constrained to essentially a very tight area.
Okay,
And
all right,
that's it.
thank you.
Yep, thank you.
All right, do we have somebody else, Mr. Scholler?
Yes. So right now, we're gonna have Lisa Rigo Oh, actually, sorry, no, this is Dorothy O'Brien.
Okay, go ahead. Ms. O'Brien, you on?
Hi, I'm having a hard time hearing, but I'm here.
Okay, could you give your full name and address for us, please?
Dorothy O'Brien at 99 Linda Ave.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. O'Brien.
My concern is the water drainage and in that the fact that that property is higher than my property is, and I've had issues in the past with water drainage and my yard flooding. So with those houses being built, it's a major concern for me with the water drainage and the septic, and that would be coming into my yard, basically.
Okay, so you're aware, this is not the 2 4-bedroom duplexes that, in fact, I'm looking at Kingsby Engineering thing, and I see Susan P. and James O'Brien, there was a vacant lot that kind of runs that way behind those two. It's not those 2 lots we're talking about, so you do understand that, correct?
I do now. I was understanding it was the property that was on Murphy. It used to be Murphy, the big, huge white house there. That was property that abutted the 72 Windward, which then connects to my property. My backyard and 72 Windward are touching.
Okay, let's see.
And then a portion of the other property you talked about, Susan O'Brien, I think you said James O'Brien.
Yes. Yeah.
That's all those 2 properties are touching my back property, my backyard.
Okay, got it. All right.
So then when the water drainage comes down from Bristol Ferry towards, because it's an incline, the water eventually ends up in my backyard.
And what was your address again?
99, Linda. And in the past, I've had issues with water, my yard flooding.
Right.
So my concern is that that'll impact the drainage for the property, for all the property actually, because it's like a domino effect as it comes down.
I see, you're at the very end of that, your house is at the very end of this particular lot.
Right.
Okay, you're at the very end of it.
Right.
Okay, all right. Your main concern is primarily drainage off of that lot.
Right.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to add to that?
Nope, that's it. I just really worried about that.
Okay, and again, like the previous abutter, I know that they do have a engineer from Principal Engineer on standby here who we will talk to him about that. So we'll
okay.
Get some answers.
Yeah.
All right.
And she's having an issue logging on with her computer too. So, Dorothy, if you stay on the call, I'm gonna merge your call with Lisa Rigo, and you can listen. So let me do that now. Okay, is this Lisa Rigo?
Yes, yes, I'm here. I'm sorry, but what the speaker just said was totally garbled.
Okay, can you hear me now, Ms. Rigo?
Yes, I can.
Okay. For the record, could you give your full name and address, please?
Yes, my name is Lisa Rigo. My mailing address is 89 Linda Avenue, which is lot 72 on the map. I'm also owner of lot 1251.
Okay. And would you like to express what your concern is?
Yes, please. Firstly, I want, in case of some confusion, I've heard mention of Susan O'Brien and James and Pauline O'Brien's ownership of lot 51. Do you know that the documentation that is attached here that you're viewing has old information? So knowing that, that's why I just wanted to mention I'm the owner of lot 51. It's not evident on your documentation.
Okay,
So that property directly abuts lot 1254 in question.
okay, yes, correct.
My concern is, I had this question Sternberger had. I was confused about from what on the street it up, and I heard now is more the section uses the house. Instead, I understand that but there is the issue of the of the yard. But you and true.
She's breaking up.
Ms. Rigo, you're breaking up. I don't know if you're moving about when you're speaking. We had you nice and clear, and then all of a sudden it just started breaking up.
Okay, I took my concern, and I think I am moving a little bit. I am concerned about the water that is going to come towards Linda Avenue. And understanding that it's going to be a very nice, modern septic system at the property. However, to find out from Mr. the representative of the engineering firm, what to the soil also would be and or their drainage options that could be put into these. Because at this point, water comes down lot through I can't read it, through that other lot onto Chrissy's property and runs in between her property and my property. And that happens now without any further development on 1254. I expect the bearing of the lawn, distant driveways, etc. is gonna have, it's only gonna make it worse. So that's my concern.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Rigo. Again, as I said to the last two abutters, we will be talking to Quincy Engineering here in a minute, and we'll address those concerns. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. McCoy, do you have a representative?
We have two more hands.
All right, let's hear the last two abutters.
All right, we have Rose Barbosa.
Okay. Ms. Barbosa, are you on?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
I can. Could you please give your full name and address for Barbara, please?
Rose Barbosa, 62 Winwood Drive, Portsmouth, Rhode Island. One of the first houses built in 1969. I've been here 51 years. And I have to have hazard insurance because when the storm, the water comes down, we always get flooded. Because people put their sub pumps out, comes down the road, and we are completely flooded in water. The whole backyard, our basement, and the house 72 was flooded terribly when it came down last time. And it's disgusting. And I'm alone now. I don't have my husband to help me here. And when the water comes down, I really have a problem. And the ground isn't absorbent of the water anymore. It's ledge in it or something because it's not absorbing anything. And I think it's unfair that we try to stick houses in for tax purposes and the people are suffering from it. I'm sorry to say that, but I've been here a long time and I have to speak the truth.
Okay, well, Mrs. Barboza, sticking houses in for tax purposes. Not of this. We have a person who owns a lot of record. It would be similar to your lot 51 years ago. That was vacant that you owned and wanted to build a house on your lot. And
It's okay to build one house, but duplex? That can't take it. It just can't take it.
let me just say this, is the term duplex, you're correct.
And I apologize about the taxes because we have a good town. I have to say that. And we have a wonderful police department. We have a wonderful fire department. So it is, I apologize for that.
Do not apologize for the tax comment. You have the right to speak your mind. This is America. We have the right to do that. So my thing is take the word duplex out and a person could come in and want to build a single family home of the same size, possibly even bigger, as long as it conformed to the setbacks on the lot. So don't misconstrue the fact that the term duplex means it's the biggest house they could put on there. No, there could be a bigger house being requested on that. So let's understand the concern and the abundance concerns about the runoff.
Well, I don't know because I don't know about housing, but I know when you got more people, you use more facilities in the house.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Mrs. Barboza?
No, I trust you'll do the right thing for us.
We try.
There's wonderful people on this street.
All righty, thank you very much.
God bless you.
Thank you. All right, who else do we have?
So we have KFRI Coaches.
All righty, KFRI Coaches. Not sure who that would be.
I'm sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, who is, could I have your name and address, please?
Yeah, my name is Matt Emmert. I'm at 40 Windward Drive, lot 1263, in a Buter to 1254. And forgive me, I use Zoom for my club swim team, and I didn't know how to rename myself when I'm jumping in on this Zoom. So
That's okay, we figure it out.
all right, good. And I appreciate you all for having us and listening to our sentiments here and concerns. And I don't need to rehash old wounds, if you will, but I agree with my neighbor, Mr. Dornberger, at 1265, as well as what Ms. Barboza said. My concerns, and you kind of educated me that it's basically 4 side setbacks as opposed to a front yard and a backyard. But my house boots half of what the proposed duplex is. And my concern is that 16-foot setback, as well as when it does rain, even though we're not further down the hill, we take on a little bit of elevated water in our backyard. And to speak to your point, Mr. Chairman, I would be okay with a single family home. The proposed 6-bedroom duplex, when there's the bigger lots or more traditional lots, I guess, and I know they're not in question, are only 4-bedroom. It feels like we're squeezing something into that just doesn't fit. But that's it. Those are my concerns. And again, I echo the rest of the neighbors on those concerns. Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate your comment. Okay, Mike, who else do we have? Anyone?
Lisa, I think Lisa Ramos has her hand up again, and so does Paul. We'll go to Paul first.
Okay. Paul, are you there?
Yeah, hi, this is Paul Dornberger again. I've got a question. Looking at the plan that's up on the screen right now, I wasn't aware of the fact until you mentioned it earlier, Mr. Chairman, about how it's actually the side of the house technically that is located within 16 feet, 2 inches of the property lines of myself and my neighbors. And this is just a question off the top of my head. Since this property and the abutting properties, namely 1252A, in this case 1252A and B, are technically owned by the same organization, if you will. They may be separate entities, but they're definitely the same organization. Couldn't the plan for this duplex, if it's going to be 3 bedrooms on each side, be moved into? Couldn't the site be located a bit more toward 1252A? Get it away from the backyards, if you will, and perhaps provide more of an area for leaching and septic system runoff in a larger lot.
Well, the problem to that would be is that they would now require a dimensional variance. Because according to the plan, the most they could move it would be 8 inches and stay within the setback.
Yeah.
So
I guess I'm just looking at the building itself, and again, until you mentioned it, in my wildest dreams, I never would have thought that the back of the building would actually be a side yard. So it's a technicality, and it's an oversight on my part, and I apologize for bringing that up. But yet, by the same time,
that's okay. Just so you know, there are some things that don't make sense.
Yep.
In this town, and unfortunately, we as a board are bound by the ordinance. Sometimes not what we think. I mean, when you find a heavy industrial lot plopped along some residentials, you wonder why. Goodyear Tire and Rubber could build there without an issue.
Yeah.
So, we don't know what people did way back when. All we can do is try to manage and do what we can to make people conform as best as possible within the confines of the ordinance.
Understand, and I appreciate that, and I do appreciate the efforts of the board. But as I said, I know that having lived here in this location for over 45 years, that in times past when there has been a significant amount of rainfall, the runoff actually comes, I'll call it south and east perhaps, from 1252 down into 1263, 65, and 67. So, and 68 for that matter. It just seems to have that type of flow from the property.
Okay. Again, we're going to speak with the engineer here very shortly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All righty, and we have one more, Lisa.
Lisa Ramos.
Okay.
Are you still there?
Lisa, are you on?
Yes, it's Lisa Rigo. I'm on the telephone.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Ms. Rigo. Go ahead. Could I have your name and address? I have your name. Could we have your address for the secretary, please?
Yes, I think you had that, and I did speak already.
Okay. All right.
Earlier. It's Lisa Rigo. My mailing address, 89 Linda
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Rigo.
In getting a message from the host that has asked me to unmute my microphone. The issue is I don't have a microphone.
Yeah, no, he just said, don't forget it. He forgot. Go ahead.
Okay. I just wanted to follow up on the comments by Mrs. Rose Barboza. So noting that every of the neighbors who have called in have expressed concerns about the water problems. I just wanted to follow up on her comment about a single family house versus a duplex. I understand, did hear this, I heard the zoning board's comment that a single family house may be larger in size. However, it is a single family and not two families. So I do think that does make a difference, and I just wanted that comment to be heard.
Okay, and just for the record, you know, our ordinance does allow duplexes to be built by right, not by request. And that's not what they're here for. They're not requesting to build a duplex. Yes, it is a duplex, but they're requesting to build it on a lot that does not front on a public way. That's the concern. So if this was right on Bristol Ferry Road, they could put the duplex up and not have to come before this board too. So just so you know, and that's our ordinance, it's not the board, that's the ordinance that states that.
Okay.
Okay.
I had noted that the current use of the lot was single family. And I guess because it does have 31,000 square feet, even though the layout of that 31,000 feet to me is not for a home in general, I understand that it still fits the ordinance
Right. And
requirement of 30,000 feet.
And for anybody listening to put that in perspective, anyone that has a home, whether it's on Linda Drive or anything like that, you know, look many years from now, if the ordinance was still in effect and somebody purchased your property, decided to tear your house down, they could then put up a duplex if they wanted to, as long as it met the setbacks without having to come before this board. So the lots you all have your houses on, as a matter of right, could have a duplex. So just so you're aware of that, okay?
Yes, and I am aware of that, but I guess please note, and hopefully there's some way for you to take into consideration the effect that will happen to the surrounding lots.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay. Is there anyone else, Mike, right now?
No.
Okay, so let me go back to Mr. McCoy. Mr. McCoy, so I understand that there is someone on from Principi Engineering.
Yes, I think Mr. Paglia was on, and maybe he could address some of those concerns regarding the septic and water.
Okay,
Sure.
let's get him on.
This is James Traglia here on behalf of Principi Engineering.
Okay, Mr. Traglia, could you give your full name and address, please? I didn't quite catch it.
Sure, it's James Traglia, 304 Broadway, Newport, Rhode Island.
Okay, Mr. Traglia, as you've been following along, the biggest concern seems to be runoff.
Correct, yeah. So just to speak to the runoff on the site and the septic system has been approved by the DEM. The loading rate is meant for the soils that we encountered at the site. The groundwater table was 2 feet here, so the system that's designed is meant for that water table in order to allow the water to leach into the ground at a slower rate and so that it does not cause any drainage issues. It's also located at the highest point of the site, which hopefully will give it some time on the site to infiltrate into the ground. And I'll also note that there's a large vegetated area to the east of the property, which is down gradient of the site. That will certainly help with infiltration. To speak to the comment about ledge, the test hole that was done, the ledge was there was no ledge encountered at 10 feet. So there should be no issue with ledge there. The duplex does conform to all of the setbacks and the requirements of the zoning ordinance. And I don't see an issue. There's tends to not be an issue with drainage due to a septic system. And I don't see how one more unit would create a significant amount of water that would affect the abutting properties.
Okay, but what about runoff of the property? In other words, right now, there's really nothing on that property. Now you're gonna put a house there that's gonna have roof. Roof is gonna shed water. That sheet flow is gonna go into gutters, gonna go into downspouts. And then where does it go?
Yeah, so it should go to the east of the property to that vegetated area. And I will note that in the zoning ordinance for Portsmouth, there's no requirement for any type of drainage for the building. So I think it's a good thing that it has that vegetated area there to take some of that water runoff.
Okay, but you do realize that you cannot increase runoff onto a neighboring property.
Correct. And I don't see an instance where this does, because if you look at the grades on the plan there, the grades go easterly, which is to our property. So the building is located on the west side of the property, so that gives the water time to infiltrate as it goes down the east side of the property.
Okay. More than questions at all?
No questions.
Mr. Furell, any questions for the engineer?
No, sir, no question.
All right, Ms. Pavlakis, do you have any questions for the engineer?
No, I do not.
Ms. Horowitz? Ms. Horowitz?
Yeah, no, I don't.
Okay. I'm not thoroughly convinced, Mr. Traglia, that you've really taken the runoff off the house into consideration. When you say it's going to the east is Linda Avenue, and that seems to be one concern of people down in that area of the runoff. Now, I guess the question is, would the runoff be increased because there was a house there or not? I mean, it is downhill, it's gonna remain, the Linda Avenue is always gonna remain downhill. Is there anything in your professional opinion, Mr. Traglia, that could be done to help mitigate runoff? I know as it goes easterly, i.e. a slight change in elevation, a little small retention area that any runoff would go down and be held into. Anything of that particular case?
There is 300 feet between the side of the building and the easterly property line. So I do think that it will have time to infiltrate there. It could be useful to put some sort of swaling or berm there, just kind of grading around the dwelling so that the water is directed to that area and not to the abutting properties.
Now, when you say to that area, when you say not the abutting properties, remember, we're not just talking about Windward Drive, we're talking about everything to the east as well, which seems to be more of the concern.
Right, but as the water travels down that portion of land, that 300 feet, it should have time to infiltrate so that it doesn't affect the abutting properties down there to the east.
All right, so now I'm going to ask one more question, and I believe I know the answer to it, although I'm not the smartest individual in the world. Given the current conditions that we've experienced this past summer, lack of a better term, drought conditions, ground seems to be relatively hard. So it seems to me that any rain we get right now doesn't absorb but seems to flow right across. I've noticed that at my parents' house, not necessarily mine. Is that normally what happens in conditions like this? Because the ground gets so hard that initial rains just run?
That can happen with properties that don't have vegetation, but like I said, this property has pretty substantial vegetation on the east side. So I don't foresee any kind of increased runoff over there. Sometimes when things are just clear cut and it's just dirt, there can be erosion and the water can travel faster.
Right. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Okay, so, I'm having a hard time reading these drawings, seeing them, but what about it? Have you included a rain garden to hold the water on the site?
There's no rain garden proposed on the site, no.
But would that not be an option that would keep the water on the runoff from the site, keep it on the site and locate a rain garden somewhere which is not unsightly and may prevent the runoff to the neighbor's property?
A rain garden may help the runoff, but I don't see it as a requirement from the zoning ordinance.
It may not be a requirement, but if it's going to solve some of the concerns of the neighbors, is it something that is feasible, is my question.
I'm not sure, but I believe that a swale or some kind of berm would be adequate. That would not be up to me, though. That would be up to the owners.
Well, I mean, my experience is the rain gardens, the reason for the rain gardens is to keep runoff on the property, on one's property, and not, I mean, and not spread into neighboring properties. That's how I understand rain gardens to be. And so that would be my suggestion.
And I think that the whole easterly portion of the lot would basically act as a rain garden. I mean, there's some pretty substantial trees over there.
But it's not, no, I'm sorry. A rain garden is specifically built with, and I don't know the details, but I do know it has layers of different kinds of drainage materials. It's not just a natural area. It is you create it in such a way that it facilitates infiltration into the earth.
Yes, we design rain gardens, so I'm familiar with them. And I will just say that the capacity of things like full-grown trees to absorb water runoff is much greater than something like a rain garden with small shrubbery and native plantings.
Okay, so Ms. Horowitz, to your point, you believe there is some benefits to a rain garden, correct?
I just know we're expected to put it, excuse me, sorry, on most, you know, the town's requiring us to do it on other projects. I'm not saying Portsmouth, you know, we work throughout Rhode Island and, sorry, it's a common thing. I'm just going to go on mute for a moment. Sorry. So, and I know it's done even when they're big trees. I don't know the technical benefit. I don't know the details of it. I just know it's a requirement.
Okay. Mr. Traglia, I'm going to try to move this right along. I'm going to ask you real quick if you can give a quick definition of what a rain garden is. Again, I know it's not a requirement of the ordinance, but again, this board has the right to propose any conditions or impose any conditions that we so desire if we believe it's in the best interest of the public. So I understand what you're saying about the runoff and the vegetation. But of course, I'm listening to abutters who live the real life experience. And if it's heavily vegetated now and not doing it, I don't see where leaving it as such is going to do it. So what exactly is a rain garden? Is it a small retention area with plants, et cetera?
Correct. Yeah, it's a small retention area that's sized in order to collect runoff water, and the native plantings are meant to soak up some of that water, and partially it also infiltrates into the ground.
Okay. So, Mr. McCoy,
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
I'd be curious what your, what the applicant's opinion is on incorporating a rain garden to the south and east of that property to help mitigate the concerns of runoff.
Yeah, and I obviously I haven't talked to you about that, but before I get to that, I guess I'd like to ask Mr. Traglia, because he mentioned a few things which in his professional opinion would be a better way to mitigate any runoff, swales or berms or a rain garden.
Well, remember this, that Ms. Horowitz is also an architect and engineer herself, so.
Understood.
So by all means, go ahead.
Sure. I just believe that the easterly portion of this lot could adequately infiltrate the water from the runoff from the proposed duplex. And I think that would help the abuttering properties, and I don't see the need for a rain garden. But if that is something that needs to be done, we certainly have designed rain gardens before.
Mr. Traglia, let me ask you this question then. Who would you take as more of factual information? Someone who assumes, based on what they know, and again, as a professional, that the vegetation should capture the runoff, or someone who's actually visually seen it, experienced it? That's my question. I mean, it'd be one thing if you were down there during a rain event. So, and I don't see anything in the file on any sort of runoff concerns or anything like that. So you understand our position where besides the applicant, we also have an obligation to abutters. And I'm not listening to one person. I'm listening to like 4 or 5 people that have the similar concern.
Yep, I definitely understand. I just want to tell you what I know about the property and give you the best idea that I can based on my professional opinion.
Okay. Okay, Mr. McCoy, anything else?
I think that's it, Mr. Chairman. Unless Ms. Dornfeld has anything to add herself, I think we put everything forth that we want to put forth for tonight.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question. So my question to the petitioner is, if you look at the existing lot, the cottage, which is going to be demolished, and the existing runoff currently, based on your petition, once it's constructed, is the runoff going to be less or more to the properties on Linda Avenue?
Yeah, I would certainly have to defer to the engineer on that question.
Yeah, it appears that the footprint of the dwelling will be larger than the existing dwelling.
So you didn't answer my question. In terms of runoff, is there going to be more runoff or less?
The larger the building, the more runoff. So the proposed project would have more runoff than the existing.
And where's the runoff from the roof going? Is it just going into the, is it collecting anywhere, or is it just dissipating the rainwater leaders from the roof?
Yep, they're draining to the easterly portion of the property.
Okay, at this point in time, Mr. McCoy, I'm going to be very upfront with you, and I'm going to say this, that I am going to propose to put a condition on this, that there be a rain garden installed somewhere to the south and east of the property. However, I would much prefer to have some sort of design plan to look at. So even though I may propose it and it may or may not pass, I'm only one person on this board. You do have the right to continue this petition if you so desire to next month. Give you time to address that, but I will let you make that decision. I just want to be right up front, and I don't want you to be blindsided on a vote that could go either way based on the concerns.
Understood, Mr. Chairman. My issue, of course, is I have a hard time now speaking to my client since we're both remote to know what she wants to do.
I'd like to address this with the engineer and put this off and re-present it next month after we've looked at this issue.
And a wise decision, I believe that would be.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we continue this petition to our December meeting in regards to getting a drainage and runoff plan and potential of a rain garden.
Okay,
could I
have a second on that?
Can I say something before? I'm not saying that the rain garden is the best solution. I'm not a civil engineer.
So we agree with that, but we would like something regarding runoff and all that. Right.
Yes.
Okay, I think we all understand.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, may I make a comment or ask a question?
Sure.
Mr. Traglia, previously, someone stated that per the town ordinances, construction is not allowed to increase runoff. Is that your understanding, sir?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Is it your understanding that town ordinances do not require or prohibit construction from increasing the amount of runoff from a piece of property?
It's just that if it increases the runoff, then it has to be accommodated, not that it can't be built because of an increase in runoff.
Okay.
The proposed project meets all of the lot coverage requirements.
Right. So this construction, as you stated a few minutes ago, will increase runoff. That your current plan has that increased runoff being absorbed by the 300 feet or so over to the east. That if I understand correctly, isn't going to be modified or anything. It's going to be the same surface that exists now that currently doesn't soak up all the water that runs over it. So it seems to me, by definition, the system the design you have now cannot absorb increased runoff, since it's not absorbing all the runoff that's coming off the vacant property at present.
Yeah, Mr. Furell, that's why they're going to continue to next month, or Mr. Borden has made a motion to continue so they can come back with us with a plan to mitigate runoff.
Good. That's what I was wondering, that I would prefer that the motion not specify a solution like a rain garden, but that it simply states a mitigation such that runoff is not increased.
Right, exactly it. So the motion is to continue to next meeting in December. So I just need a second on that.
I'll second.
All right, motion been made and second by Ms. Horowitz. So, Mr. Borden?
Yes, I vote to approve the motion to continue the petition to.
Mr. Furell?
Ben Farrell votes to approve the motion.
Right. Ms. Pavlakis,
Kathleen Pavlakis votes to approve to continue the petition.
Ms. Horowitz,
I vote to approve to continue the petition.
thank you. Chairman votes to approve to continue the petition to December 17th as well. So it's been continued to next month.
We will see you next month, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good Thanksgiving.
You too.
Thank you.
Okay, is Mr. Ladika still with us as well?
Yes, I am.
Okay, good, because I know Mr. Borden does have to leave the meeting. We've got one petition left. So, go ahead, Mr.
I'm
Borden.
gonna try to hang in there.
No, that's okay. All right,
Just feel nauseous.
yeah, so I would say go ahead, Mr. Borden.
Well, let's,
You're gonna try to hang it out?
yeah, I'm gonna
All
try
right.
to hang in.
So the last item on the petition, on the agenda is a petition by Stephen Sider, applicant, SBC Realty, and requesting to remove some previously placed conditions on a special use permit.
Mr. Chairman, could we take a 5-minute break?
Yeah, we're gonna take a 5-minute break, okay?
So, and actually, if the applicant would raise their hand, they're not listed by their name.
Oh, okay. Is the applicant for SBC Realty here? Please raise your hand.
Is it Stephen Seitzer?
Yes.
Is Stephen Seitzer on the call? So let's take the recess and come back and hopefully he's.
Yeah.
You're unmuted now.
All right, zoning board of review is back in session. Are looking for a representative of SBC Realty LLC. Is anyone on board?
Raise your hand. You're on board. I think Stephen Seitzer.
Sider. Sider, Stephen Sider. Well, on that, I'll continue it.
He was here twice yesterday.
Well, I'm not gonna go around, so could I have a motion to continue the petition of SBC Realty to our regularly scheduled meeting of December 17th?
So moved.
By Mr. Ward and Mr. Fuhr, could I have a second on it?
Mr. Chairman, Ben Farrell seconds.
Okay, so Mr. Ward in favor or no?
Yes.
Mr. Furell,
Yes.
Pavlakis,
Yes.
Ms. Horowitz,
Yes.
Wadika,
Yes.
Chairman is as well. So, all being said, all those everyone has voted in favor of continuing the petition on Stephen Sider SBC Realty to our regularly scheduled meeting on December 17th. So folks, thank you very much. Have a happy Thanksgiving as best you can this year.
Motion to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Aye. Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Kathleen, can you hang for a second?
Yep.
All right. All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
I apologize.
Kathleen, real quick question. You are up in March. Do you intend to continue on after March?
Say that again? What?
Your period ends in March of 2021.
Oh, yeah.
You intend to continue on? Are you gonna reapply for the position?
Well, I mean, I do enjoy it. I mean, do you want me to? If you want to get somebody else, I'll quit.
No,
I
no,
don't
no,
care.
I'm just asking because the town clerk asked me to ask you.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got a little bit of time yet.
Yeah, okay.
You know, I just wanted to put the bug in your ear so you could think about
I know, yeah. All right, let me think, let me think about it.
it. Okay.
I'll let you know like in a week.
Oh, you can let us know next month is fine.
Okay.
All right. Thank you much. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
Okay, you too. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.